If you were born between 1976 and 1985, you don't fully belong to Gen X, and you don't completely fit into Millennials either. You remember life before the internet, but you also adapted faster than anyone after it arrived. You played outside until sunset, but you also learned to survive email, social media, and digital pressure. Today, we're diving into the psychology of Xennials, a micro-generation shaped by two completely different worlds. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why Xennials think differently, feel differently, and often carry a quiet emotional weight no one talks about. Stay till the end, because the final section explains why Xennials feel tired even when life looks successful. Xennials are people born roughly between 1976 and 1985. They grew up with analog childhoods and digital adulthoods. They didn't grow up with smartphones, but they didn't reject technology either. Psychologically, this matters, because the brain forms its core emotional wiring in childhood. Xennials' early years were shaped by face-to-face friendships, physical play, delayed gratification, boredom, real boredom. Then adulthood suddenly demanded constant connectivity, speed, comparison, hustle culture. This created a split psychological identity. Xennials grew up in a slower world. If you're a Xennial, you likely remember waiting for TV shows, calling friends on landlines, memorizing phone numbers, being unreachable, and being okay with it. Psychologically, this built patience, emotional resilience, stronger attention spans. Your brain learned that not everything happens instantly, and that's normal. This is why many Xennials feel uncomfortable with constant notifications, get drained by endless scrolling, crave offline moments without fully knowing why. Your nervous system was calibrated for slowness first. Then came the internet, email, social media, smartphones, and Xennials had to adapt as adults, not as children. Psychologically, this is huge. Children absorb technology naturally. Adults adjust under pressure. Xennials learn digital life while already carrying jobs, responsibilities, relationships, financial stress. This created mental overload, faster burnout, a sense of always catching up. You weren't trained for a 24/7 world. You were dropped into it. Xennials often feel too old for Gen Z, too young for Gen X, too responsible to be carefree, too aware to be ignorant. This creates identity ambiguity. Psychologically, identity clarity gives stability, but Xennials live in between labels. So many Xennials feel, I don't fully belong anywhere. Not because something is wrong with them, but because their generation doesn't have a clear cultural script. Most Xennials were raised during a time when emotions were rarely discussed. Be strong was the default advice. Mental health wasn't openly talked about. This created emotional self-reliance. Xennials learned to solve problems quietly, to carry stress internally, to avoid burdening others. Psychologically, this builds strength, but it also builds silent exhaustion. You function well, even when you're overwhelmed. In relationships, Xennials are loyal, deeply committed, emotionally complex. They grew up without dating apps, but learned modern dating later. This creates tension between old school values, modern relationship expectations. Xennials often crave stability, emotional safety, meaningful connection, but they live in a world that rewards speed, options, detachment. This mismatch causes emotional fatigue. Xennials were taught, work hard, be reliable, don't complain. Then they entered workplaces that later demanded constant availability, adaptability, self-branding. Psychologically, this creates overfunctioning. Xennials often take on more responsibility, feel guilty resting, measure worth through productivity. Burnout doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like quiet numbness. Xennials love nostalgia, not because they're stuck in the past, but because nostalgia regulates their nervous system. Old music, old cartoons, old games. These trigger memories of safety, simplicity, predictability. In a chaotic modern world, nostalgia becomes emotional grounding. Xennials raising children face a unique challenge. They remember freedom, independence, less supervision. But they're raising kids in hyper-connected, overstimulated, high-pressure environments. This creates internal conflict. How do I protect without over-controlling? Psychologically, Xennials parent with high awareness, but also high anxiety. Here's the truth no one says out loud. Xennials aren't tired because they're weak. They're tired because they adapted twice. They adapted from analog to digital, from simplicity to complexity. They carry old world emotional wiring, new world mental demands. This constant internal adjustment drains energy, but it also makes Xennials emotionally intelligent, adaptable, deeply resilient. They are the bridge generation, and bridges carry weight so others can cross. If you're a Xennial, your exhaustion doesn't mean failure. It means you survived a massive cultural shift without losing your humanity. And that's something worth understanding. If this video resonated with you, you're not alone. You're just part of a generation that learned to be strong quietly. If this psychology breakdown helped you understand yourself better, you might enjoy more deep dives into human behavior and mindset. Stay curious. Understanding yourself is a lifelong process.